Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our fifth Mira Powered by Griff webinar. Today, we're tackling two of the biggest issues in the industry at the moment, delivery, as well as looking at the reopenings, which has just happened in the last, since we last met last week. So a lot's happened since last week's webinar, and we thought it'd be a good idea to bring on some operators, as well as the media. So we've got Samantha back as well, Simon moderating, and we've got Tom Arnell as well as Natasha from Tasha's to talk you through what's going on the delivery front, as well as the reopenings that are happening at the moment. So I will now hand over to Simon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yes, hello everyone, and welcome to the latest Middle East Restaurant Association webinar. As Jennifer says, today we'll be tackling what surely must be two of the biggest topics of the past month. Or basically for the industry in general. We will, of course, first of all, we'll be starting with the delivery aggregator situation, and specifically looking at the commissions that they charge, amongst some other things. It's a topic that has been bubbling under the surface for a while and has really been brought up to me several times in the past, but it has really come to the fore during this coronavirus pandemic, due to the fact that delivery has gone from being incremental income to a restaurant to being its sole form of revenue. We had hoped this webinar would be an opportunity to have a meaningful discussion face-to-face with the aggregators themselves, and invites were extended to all the big players, the Talabats, Deliveroo's, etc. However, unfortunately, none of them were willing or able to join us today. But as Jennifer mentioned, we still have a fantastic lineup of panelists, as you can see. Of course, Samantha Wood is the face behind the UAE Restaurants Unite hashtag, which saw over 5 million impressions made in its first month, all helping local restaurants through this tough time. Now, while Talabat, etc. wouldn't appear today, we are joined by one of the disruptors, you might say, of the delivery scene, Benjamin Mufrad of Chatfood. Chatfood hit the headline during this when it teamed up with Foodshake to launch Deliver DXB, an online portal, again focusing on helping local restaurants, and most importantly, without hitting them with commission for each order. So it will be great to hear Benjamin's take on things. Now, if you read the Caterer website, as you should be, then you will have seen Natasha Sedaris' strong remarks the other day against the commissions charged by delivery platforms. And we're delighted to have the Tasha's Group founder here with us to share her opinions on the matter and discuss how it's affecting her. And last but certainly not least, Tom Arnell of Bull & Roo, which operates a number of very well-known brands across Dubai, including virtual brands solely for delivery. So it'll be great to have his take on the situation and what it all means for him. Now, the format of today's webinar will be fairly straightforward. For the first half or 40 minutes or so, we're going to try and focus on the delivery issue. We have a number of questions already for the panelists, but we encourage everyone watching to please use the Q&A section at the bottom to enter yours, and we will absolutely try and focus on the things that you want to be covered. Once we're done with delivery, if that's possible, we're going to spend a bit of time discussing the reopening that's currently happening. We'll ask our restaurateurs on the panel how they're going about it, what it means for them in their business, and what they would like to see happen going forward. So again, if you have any questions regarding the current opening situation, please send them through using the Q&A panel just at the bottom of your window, and we'll put them through to the panelists. Now, let's get down to business. I thought we'd start with Samantha as the voice of the people and having set up the UAE Restaurants Unite hashtag. Great if you could perhaps give us a bit of context into the anger that's happening around delivery commission and just what it means in particular to small independent restaurants in Dubai.
Thank you, Simon. Good morning, everyone. Well, as you quite rightly said, all F&B operators are suffering. With delivery, their main source of income, even now with the possibility of reopenings, it still is. But the aggregators are benefiting because aside from supermarkets and a few restaurants that are open for dining, they are the only other means of food distribution. And we're seeing high commissions by as much as 35%. So aside from the ethical business practice of creating goodwill, let's just say as an example, if just one of these aggregators, and I'm talking about the giants here, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Talabat, and Zomato, who take the chunk of the delivery market. If just one of these was to waive or drastically reduce their commission, most restaurants will actually sign up to their platform and will remain loyal customers after the crisis. And by supporting local businesses in times of downturn, they will gain loyal merchants long-term, thus increasing revenue. Otherwise, restaurants will close. And with no restaurants, there's no food delivery aptness. But aside from that high commission structure, there's a couple of other points that I think are key to today's discussions. Discounts. The aggregators are encouraging restaurants to give high discounts to raise their visibility on their platforms. So at a cost to the restaurant, not to the app. And this creates a discounting culture that we all know is an unhealthy strategy. Secondly, with some aggregators, restaurants have the choice of taking their last mile delivery option, what is commonly known as the full stack, or alternatively, only ordering and payment, which attracts a much less commission at typically 8 to 10%. Now, with other apps, they can only take the last mile option. So unless restaurants opt for last mile delivery, their listing sits lower on the app, and they are forcing restaurants to take delivery, charge high commissions, as opposed to just ordering and payment with less commission.
Yeah, basically the general consensus is that the food delivery apps aren't playing fair, and they are kind of trying to take advantage of the situation. Let's just try and get everyone's cards on the table then. I'll come to Natasha first. Obviously, I heard from you earlier in the week. In terms of aggregators, you're new to this delivery model and it's not something you had done before. What was your take on it, especially on finding out 30 to 35% commission?
Okay, so obviously I was, firstly, thank you for inviting me to be on the panel. We're new to delivery, so I think I've got to be fair and say that I don't understand the model, but when I try to analyze it, I mean, I think I've got a good understanding of business. It really doesn't make any sense to me. I have to say that I was shocked when I saw what the commissions were. We were offered a small discount for joining. We had no other option but to go on deliveries. I have always resisted any of my brands being on the delivery platform, but you know, when you're coming to surviving and your business needs the income so that you can keep some staff on board, you really have no other option. So we've been put in a corner, and then as you start doing the turnovers and get excited about what type of turnovers you can do, you realize that, you know, let's assume you were doing 200,000 dirhams turnover, 60,000 is going to go to the aggregator, and in the current situation, yes, there'd be a small margin for us, maybe 10%, but that's because we're not paying rental and we've cut staff salaries and we've cut staff substantially. If you now go back to full trade and you continue with the deliveries, you actually make a loss. In our business, it's a loss, and that's quite sad, because we would like to continue with deliveries and be able to offer our product to the customers, but it makes no financial sense. So while I don't understand the deliveries business model, for me, it doesn't work, and it's not a model that it's sustainable for my restaurant. I just can't continue with the Deliveroos or the Zomatos of the world or the Uber Eats of the world, not here or in South Africa. So yeah, I think it's just too steep. I also, Tom, just on that, and because I don't want to talk too much, but I think that I don't understand the commission charge. So Samantha lives next door to Simon, and Samantha orders 1,000 dirhams worth of food because she's having a party, and Simon's ordering $100. Why do they have to make a com on the size of the baskets? They're still going from point A to point B. So that's also confusing to me. And again, I'm new to the delivery market, so maybe I don't understand it as much as I should. But those are the two things that are just completely, I just don't understand it. It's the same expense. They're doing the kilometer rate. They're picking up the food from the restaurant. They're going to the same place. Why is there commission on the size of the basket?
So, Natasha, I'm happy to give my point of view there. But I think if you want to understand this commission structure, you need to go back in time and understand how it all started. So if you go back like 3-4 years ago, and you take a normal restaurant on a normal evening, maybe he will do like 20 meals, and he will serve 20 meals in his restaurants. But his kitchen could eventually prepare 10 more meals, right? And then the aggregator came in and told this kitchen, say, listen, you can prepare 10 more meals. So why not you list your restaurant with us? And we are going to get you through deliveries, these 10 extra meals. And for that, you are going to pay us 30%. 3-4 years back, it was a fair and it was a good value proposition. I already had my cost in my dining restaurants, and someone would offer me to get like 10 more orders, and I would pay 30% for that, but it will be like pure additional revenue for me. So it will be fine. It will make sense in terms of finance. The things that, and then on the aggregator side, they have built their business model with these 30% commissions. So they have invested a lot on logistics, on marketing, on technology, because they had this 30% margin on every order. The thing that changed is that quickly enough, these 10 orders became 20, 30 orders. And the 20 meals that you were serving in your restaurants became 15, 10, 5. And so the whole structure of cost started to shift and to change. And from something that was acceptable to pay 30% for a small part of your business that was pure incremental, it became 30% of your core revenue structure. And as you said very well, then in that case, when you add on top the salaries, the cost of food, the cost of running your business, you don't make money, and it's not possible anymore. That's why we strongly believe that there is a need now to build a new type of model that still offers this convenience to consumers, because at the end of the day, let's be honest, consumers are going to keep going on delivery, and delivery is here to stay, right? So there is a need to offer this convenience and this amazing experience also, because if we are honest, it's great as a consumer to go on an aggregator app and order food for delivery. It's a very nice process. It's smooth, it's easy, and it's transparent and so on. But you need to build a fair model for the restaurant so that they can include that into their cost structure, and they can still make money and survive and grow with this new shift of probably a majority of your revenue coming from delivery. So I think and it's a challenge also for the food portals, because they have this business model that has been built initially on that cost structure. So now if you ask them to split this by 2, it doesn't work for them, because they have these costs that are there and that they need to invest in it. So it's really interesting, this panel, because there is a need to build a fair model where, as a consumer, I can order easily my food and get it delivered fast. And as a restaurant, I can still make money from my customers, and especially the loyal one, without having to have these costs that are huge on the margin. And that's what we try to do, basically.
I think the other thing that I didn't mention, Benjamin, is that obviously a lot of restaurants are having to up their prices slightly to try and recover, some of those losses. So in the end, the customer also gets punished, because you're paying the delivery fee and the restaurant's having to increase their prices. So it's a twofold loss. One, customers are not paying fair price. They are also paying in the delivery fee on top of it, and then the restaurants can't make any margin. But your explanation does make sense, and I'm happy to understand it a little bit better than I did before.
Yeah, you're right. And for the consumer, yes, in the end, it triggers this negative effect. And I think it's 2 negative effects. First, you play on the price, so you will artificially increase your price. And eventually, you will also play on the quality of your product, because you need to save money somewhere, right? So eventually, you will also play on the quality of your product, and this is going to impact your brands negatively. So again, this model now has probably reached some kind of limits, and there is a need of thinking of a new way to create this delivery model that can work on all the aspects.
Another challenge that we have here is that with consumers, they don't understand how the app model works. So when they see that delivery charges have been dropped, they think, oh, great. When they see there's a discount, they don't realize that discount is at a cost to the restaurant and not the app. So they're encouraged to order more. So there's a huge education process required in educating the consumer in terms of how it works, because they want to support local restaurants. They realize the situation. So the more that we can do that front, that also helps.
Yes, Samantha,
can I jump in there, guys?
Yes.
Simon, sorry. So I just wanted to just make a couple of points on that. So yeah, thanks for having me, everyone. But firstly, I've been reading a couple of these comments as everyone's been talking. Everyone's making good points, of course. But I just want to point out something that from my perspective, the customer is really driven by price and convenience. And I sort of liken a lot of the bigger delivery apps to some sort of like a shopping mall, right? So with a shopping mall, you pay high rents, you're paying for location, you're paying for high demand, right? So you're in a good location where you're getting visibility, and you have to pay high rent for that. So I've always understood in certain locations why it would be viable to pay bigger commissions to delivery apps. But basically, my whole thing with this is that every single business model out there is very different. And you've got to split this between pre-COVID-19 and the current situation, and then what's going to happen after. You know, before COVID-19, like, you know, most businesses out there, I would say their delivery models would be between, or their delivery revenues would be between, you know, 5 and 15% max, most restaurants out there. But a lot of the restaurants, there's other restaurants out there. Take Dubai, for example, like JLT or the Marina or something like that, where a lot of the restaurants in there might have, you know, 50%, 60% of their delivery, you know, be their revenue model. So those are the guys that really would be suffering from higher commissions at the moment. So there's a lot of people in different boats here. And I think that we've got to now just figure out what is the best option for everybody. Like the last, or the best, actually I'll say something different. The best option for yourselves. In the last couple of weeks since this whole thing has started, what I've been doing is really try and nut out what is best for my business and what's best for our business model. And the one thing that's clear to me is that we don't have to be held hostage by these delivery aggregators, because one of the things that I can see is that most of them make losses. They're not making money. So if they're not making money, they're not going to drop their commissions. And I don't see that happening. But what I do think that we have as operators in our power is options to go with other aggregators. We have options to go on other models like subscriptions or you know, deliveries ourselves. You know, so if you come up with a subscription model, like a meal plan or something like that, that is not dependent on, you know, on-demand delivery, you might get upfront money. You might get upfront payments for these types of things. So what I'm saying is that there are so many other options to go with other than just plain old delivery on-demand meals. And those meals, if you want to go with a subscription model or something like that, could be delivered by yourself. You can do that with your own drivers, with your own bikes. There are other companies out there that offer delivery via bikes or car. So all I'm saying is that there are other options out there that don't have to rely on you know, these bigger apps. And my whole thing with it is that if you are reliant on only one of them, then, you know, it's not going to save your business. That's for sure. So I think you have to have your options. You have to have them open. You have to be able to make sure that you're navigating it through what's best for you, because everybody's business model is very different.
Tom, you are completely right. A fair and a good model is a restaurant who don't rely 100% on food portal, but who also build his direct channels and who also build his direct connection with his customers. If you look at, for instance, another industry, which is retail, you can see this coming now. If you look at Amazon, like 2-3 years back, everybody would say Amazon is eating the world, and every retail transaction will go through Amazon. But now you have seen a lot of e-commerce websites taking back control of their online business, using tools like Shopify, who are specialized on helping them drive their direct sales, and start to sell a lot from there. And there is this way forward where restaurants needs to do what they used to do before, which is invest into marketing about their brand, their own marketing.
Because I think, sorry, Benjamin, you were saying before that even with Deliver DXB, that you guys have just recently launched with Foodshake, was a great thing to keep money back into the operators' pockets. But still, how many restaurants do you have on there now? What did you say? 700?
Yeah, there's a bit more than 700, and I think
So still, what my point is that you still are challenged by the huge supply that's on that app. So no matter what happens, the dilution of your sale is there. So you just have to have a better brand presence and be able to have other options. So in order to increase your sales in the time of a catastrophe for our restaurant industry, you have to be everywhere. You can't rely on one spot. And if you spend your time worrying about a commission that one of those apps is charging, it will screw you. It'll screw with your head, and it will, it'll confuse your whole business model, your staff, and it won't get you out of this problem. So if you're going to get through this whole thing, you have to have as many options as possible, and not just be on 1 or 2 or 3 of those delivery apps where you've got 500 or 600 or 5,000 competitors. You have to be everywhere.
Look, there are apps that have even more traffic than these delivery apps. It's social media apps, and especially apps like Instagram, who helps you to connect directly with your customers. So you can see, we see here in Dubai, like there are a lot of restaurants who have built their brand and their presence on social media through their websites and connect directly with their customers and are able to build a sustainable business from that. So I agree with you. You should try to cover as many channels as possible and to be everywhere, so that wherever people want to engage with your business, they can order or book from you, from also those things. And I think someone in the panel is mentioning booking.com, and it's a good example on the travel side as well. You have booking.com that has captured a lot of value and has put himself in between people who look for travel and people who and hotels. And now hotels are also trying to develop the tools to bring these people back to order, to book from them directly through loyalty program, through marketing presence on social media and so on. And it's very important that restaurants also like do that and invest this time and so on into building their own brands and building their own presence, so that they are not only reliant on food portals, but they can also like develop their brand by themselves and through the tools that are there already.
Guys, if I can interject, I think Tom, Benjamin, you guys both make good points, but I think we're not all in a position to be seasoned restaurateurs who know how to take advantage of the various systems, who don't maybe have a big office behind them. Tom, you've got a couple of restaurants. I own 24, so I've just come onto the delivery apps, and because I've got a big team and we can put some money behind marketing and we can look at various options, I think that we've sort of got a responsibility during this time, and you're quite right, to look at your own business model to effect change and see what you can do. But I do think as some of the bigger players in the market, we do have a responsibility to try and guide and also to try and get some pressure on the bigger aggregators to help the smaller guys, because it isn't only about our survival. And I think it's something that we've sort of got in my mind, a responsibility to put a bit of pressure on the delivery apps, because if people like me, you, Tom, all of the bigger guys do put a bit of pressure, we've got a chance not only to help ourselves, but to help the smaller restaurants who may not have the skill, the money, and they're basically at the mercy of the bigger delivery apps. They need to be with them. They can't pivot the way we do for whatever the reasons are. And I think a lot of people are desperate and looking for help and guidance. So I certainly think, again, I've seen in some of the comments who say that aggregators are not making money.
Yeah.
But again, I don't understand their business model. So yes, I will try and do something else. But surely during this time, they could, if someone like, sorry guys, it's slipped my mind now. Kareem can drop their commission to 0 now. Surely the other guys can follow, or drop it to 15%. I'm not sure what the drop was. Yeah. Or places like Qatar, where they've been forced through legislation to drop their comms to 19%. Because as Benjamin says, it is easy, it is convenient, it's great for the customer, they go onto it. So surely there's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
Natasha,
yeah.
I think it's definitely possible for them to do eventually a temporary reduction and to do something like right now to support the restaurants. But again, I think it's important to look at it on the long term, and definitely on the long term, it's not something that can be sustainable. And on the other hand, restaurants need to find a sustainable way to grow their business through delivery. So that's my point about like trying to like for restaurants to look for other options is of course you want to work with them because they are adding some value, but you should not be 100% only with them, and you should also like find a good balance. I was talking about the right balance at the beginning, about like 20 dine-in and 10 extra orders. And now in this new world of more deliveries, you should try to rebuild a split that's similar to that, with like maybe 20 orders that are commission free, that are direct to the restaurants, and another 10 of new customers that brings that these apps are bringing. And then here everybody will be happy and everybody will work together. So yeah. I completely agree with you on the short-term support. It should happen. Then I think it's also important for restaurants to think about the long-term. How do they adapt their model to this new situation that's probably here to stay?
Benjamin, obviously, I said what you've been doing with FoodShake and Deliver DXP has taken a lot of attention. And obviously it's something that people are looking towards doing rather than giving their commission to the big aggregators. But perhaps a lot of people don't understand exactly what it is Chatfood does differently. Can you explain exactly what Chatfood does differently from the big aggregators and why it works? And maybe give us an understanding of why they aren't doing similar to you.
Yeah, so basically we are a commission-free ordering platform for restaurants. So what we do is that we help restaurants to get orders from their direct channels, from their website, from their Instagram, from their WhatsApp, from Facebook, from everywhere where their customers can engage with them. And we bring them all the tools so their customers can have the same ordering experience on food portals, but directly with their brands. So we provide them, of course, like ordering tools that they can connect to their direct channels. We provide them like payment tools so they can capture online payments. And we also connect them with a network of delivery companies so they can deliver the food fast and offer that transparency to restaurants. Because I think, as Tom said, for instance, Deliver DXB has had an amazing educational impact. We could see in the feedback that people were giving that they want to support local restaurants and they wanted to go on that platform to find out which restaurant they could order from to support them. And you have a fair amount of people who are sensitive to that. But the truth is, as Tom said, most of the people are first sensitive to price, discount, and second sensitive to convenience and time of delivery. So it's not enough to just say support local restaurants. You need also, when they order from these local restaurants, they need to have an amazing ordering experience. They need to be able to place their order easily, and they need to get their food fast. And so basically on our side, we try to build all the tools so a restaurant can offer that to their customers. So then they can capture, especially at the very beginning, the loyal one, which are the most important for a business, and eventually after expand. So we also offer them like marketing tools so they can grow their business. That's in a nutshell, how we help.
And then you use a third-party delivery company, Rider or One Click or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. We are integrated with those companies, QuickUp, One Click, Currymbox, Ghibli, and Corio, and all the ones that are present in Dubai. And as a restaurant owner, you will receive a new order, let's say from your Instagram. You just accept it, and then those companies come, pick up the food, and deliver it. And on the process, they also share the live map of their driver to the customer. So me as a consumer, I can track my order the same way that I would do on Deliveroo. So at the end of the day, if you offer a nice ordering experience, transparency on the ordering process, and then as a restaurant you do a little plus, you create a connection. Like as a restaurant, you get the data of your customers. You know exactly how many times they have ordered from you. You can start to put in place some reward model like loyalty program, small reward or notes on the orders, because you can create this personal connection. And this is how, when you add these three things, you can switch some of these customers to order from you directly. Because at the end of the day, as a consumer, if I can order directly to the restaurants and I get rewarded for my loyalty and I get my food fast, I'll do it. Everybody will want to do that.
So is the thing then not to sort of be pushing, trying to get customers more and more onto chat food and those types of apps. That's where the education's got to be. So obviously everyone's gotten used to the deliveries, the Deliveroos and the Zomatos of the world and the Kareems of the world. We've got to be encouraging our customers to start ordering through this app that you're talking about, or similar ones, because that's really where it's going to make a huge difference.
So can I just jump in as well? I agree that it's going to make a big difference. I think that, as I said before, like for me, it's all about making sure that you have options for people all over the different resources within the market. So if basically I'm on chat food, if I'm on Zomato, if I'm on Deliveroo, if I'm on Uber Eats and whatever, I will eventually get more market share by being on them with low value incremental revenue, right? It's all low value because we know that we're not making a huge profit from these orders, but at least the money is coming in. See, I find that a better scenario right now because especially during COVID, right? Where every bit of money that comes into my business is there for paying staff and suppliers right now. Like that's what we've got to do. All the other stuff we can sort of move away and whatever. We've got to be responsible to make sure we're getting as much money into our staff's pockets as possible. Because these are the people that essentially run our business. As soon as we reopen to full capacity, we're going to be, relying on them to come and, bang, straight away, guys, right, we're open at 80% now or 50%. We're going to need to rely on these people. So every bit of money that we have coming in is super important. But one of the things that I've been doing as well is trying to figure out how to go direct to customer. And one of the things that we're doing is I've turned all of my 7-8 brands on my Boolaroo website from normal blog style websites to now e-commerce Shopify sites where I'm going to be ordering, where customers can order direct through our websites, and then we can deliver directly to the customers either via our own drivers or via other delivery partners, that just service drivers. So it's all about having a big mix of revenue income. Some of it might be low value, some of it might be high value, but from like my advice to most people out there would be you've just got to have the options. Hopefully, as more delivery aggregators come onto the market or come into the market and they start to, tussle and fight for market share, they'll eventually drop the price, right? I've been talking to a lot of the delivery operators around town over the last couple of weeks. Even at the very start of this whole thing, when it first started to look like there was going to be some real issues here, mid-February to late February, I was calling around to see what I could do. Accounts. No one was listening. So I sort of dropped that ball and I was like, okay, what I've got to do now is figure out if they don't drop our business model, what is going to save the business? What is going to save that next job for a staff member who really needs that money? And it's about having a spread. And it's about having market presence in as many places as possible for all of your different brands. That's my.
Tom, can I ask you, with having the spread, don't you find that it's more weighted towards the apps that are known, so that then the spread's sort of skewed? So when you're doing that and you're with Uber Eats and Deliveroo and you're doing your own, what proportion would you say still goes to the bigger aggregators? 70%, 80% still through them?
It's still a big amount. But the point is that, as I said before, any money at the moment is good money, right? That's my whole thing, is that you've just got to find ways to bring in whatever you can. So having the options, it works for our customers, and we're obviously learning every single day about what to do and what not to do, and how to ensure that we're being doing the right things. And it's a very confusing time for everybody. Nobody knows what is right or wrong. But you've just got to get out there and try and hustle and not worry about what you think or you perceive to be. Because I've seen a lot of people get really worked up about this. Yes, as a collective, we can do something. And yes, I think that over time, as more competition comes in for the delivery aggregators, they'll eventually drop their prices to become more competitive. But right now, it's about focusing on your own business and making sure that you can make money in whatever way you can.
Okay, just to add, I think it's the ideal situation, obviously, is for everyone to be able to build their own online presence so that people can order direct. Now, the challenge is that, looking like in Natasha's case, you have a lot of licensed restaurants that are having to resort to online and deliveries for the first time ever. And you also have all these mom and pop shops across town that form a huge chunk of the 11,000 restaurants that don't have the facility and the to be able to do that. So I really do think the next stage now is to lobby the government to cap commissions, like we've seen in the US, San Francisco and Seattle at 15%. Even in Qatar, it's happened. Yeah. We've all tried our best through everything that we've done, either restaurateurs, media, we've all lobbied the apps in some form or another. So for the future of this industry, because this isn't going to go away, delivery is going to become a huge chunk of a restaurant's revenue moving forward. So we need to find a long-term solution here as well.
I just want to just make a quick point there, right? So if you can imagine that a restaurant's model, I'm talking like broad figures here, because I know everyone's business model is different. I think that's a point we need to keep stressing, is that everybody is different here. So like, you know, like Natasha, if you like, delivery now for you would never save your business if it was going to go under, right? It couldn't even come close to doing that. But for others it may, right? So if you look at like percentages, basically rent would be 20%, OPEX, you know, generally is about 25%, food costs are about 30%, you know, delivery up, you know, if we take an average of 30%, right? I just don't, that means that every transaction that you make is a loss-making transaction.
Correct.
So, as I said, every time you make that transaction, it is low-value incremental revenue that can just help your cash flow, right? But it's not going to save you.
But if you're losing money, sorry, Tom, I'm just going to interject. If you're losing money.
What I'm saying is, if you don't like it, log out. Don't be on there, right? There are other options to make money. You just have to be creative.
Which is what, exactly.
Find the ways of getting around this.
Yeah.
And yeah, because obviously, if you can't sustain every transaction being a loss-making transaction, and you just be on there for marketing purposes, and you just be on there because it's low-value incremental revenue, that is not sustainable. So what I'm saying is, I'm just trying to say, you've got to have loads of different options, and don't wait around for government intervention or something like that, which might take years. It's not sustainable.
I think those two things have to go hand in hand. I think because now we're exploring other options, and of course we're going to look at chat food, and we've been looking at another app, and we certainly have already told, because we're only on Deliveroo, we've already told Deliveroo that if they don't drop their comp, we are actually leaving. It's just going to be a process, a week or two, and then we will log out. Because it's one thing to have a couple of losses, but then to sustain losses and then compound losses, it just doesn't make any commercial sense. It's commercial suicide. So I agree with you, but I think at the same time, even though I may have that option and it's easy for me to move away, and I'm getting a lot of orders and we have a big following, so we do have a loyal customer base and a lot of people order from us, a lot of restaurants don't have that option. They need the bigger aggregators for the advertising because they're not that well known. So, you know, they are forced to be there. And again, I say, I think we have a responsibility to, while we're shifting from those things and logging out, Tom, and moving to other options. And I'm brand new to the delivery game. This is like 5-6 weeks. But I think that at the same time that we're doing that, we still have to continue, as Samantha says, to put pressure, to ask governments to intervene, because it's our responsibility to our, without sounding mushy, our brothers and sisters in the food industry, because we're all in this together. And I think that the more things that we can lobby against collectively, the more our voices are going to be heard, the bigger chance we have at success. You know, whatever that success is, whether it's a 5% reduction, 10%, 15% reduction, but we're helping everyone. And in the long run, it's going to help all of us.
Yeah. Okay. So I agree with that. I just wanted to, I saw someone come up there with a question about for the small operators, there isn't any options, and people are only there for their, the exposure might be the only way to make be their only way to have a digital presence. Yeah. That's very true. But as I said, like we've got to like try and find ways to get around these guys, right?
Yeah.
Like we can't just sit back and wait for this to happen, which is what I'm saying. You know, it's got to, but we have to find other ways now while we're in this time.
Yeah, I think
there's all.
On you go, Samantha.
Now, just quickly, I was just going to say there's also there are apps being launched where restaurateurs are coming together to launch their own app. So yes, I agree. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. Everyone's got to look at all different options in support of the whole industry. Thank you.
Yeah, can I say one more thing? Sorry, Simon, before we go on. To that guy who talked about the small operator, right? And they're saying there isn't any other options. Like, I think there's one thing that I think everybody is sort of missing, right? Is that I don't think that anyone really is talking about the food or the quality of the food and the kind of packaging and the customer experience that people are getting at home, right? Like, there's thousands and thousands of restaurants on these apps, and all of them are there, and they're sort of disengaged, right? They're sort of on there, oh, it's 5 to 15% of my revenue. We just slap it in that box. It's supposed to be served beautifully on a restaurant plate, right? But for delivery, it's almost like we just get the box and we just shove it in there and we send it off, and nobody gives a shit after that, right? So it's almost like, I think for especially the smaller restaurants who are trying to get a leg over their competition, it's got to be about the product as well, right? You've got to innovate. You've got to figure out how to make your product look really sexy on social media. You've got to spend time on your customer experience, which is your packaging. So there are loads of options it doesn't have to be just about the commission. There are other things. You've got to innovate on your product as well, is what I'm saying.
We've had a few people commenting saying, is it time to fundamentally change our business models because they don't work in this new era and the way things are at the moment. But, before the COVID pandemic, commission while it was an issue, it certainly was nowhere near the focus. Will there be a chance that as things get back to normal and delivery returns to being just an incremental income, will this drop away again? Will it not be a focus as much as it was? Will people go back to not caring and be happy with it? Natasha, what do you think?
Sorry, I was just reading this comment and smiling. Someone gave me a compliment. Just repeat that again. I'm sorry. Simon,
well, we're saying, obviously, in one of the comments, you mentioned actually that once this is over, once you go back to dining with commission the way it is, you won't carry on with delivery.
Not at these types of commissions. Certainly, I won't carry on. Listen, let me rephrase that. So we certainly, if the commissions are not dropped, we already are going to move away from the aggregators. I certainly would like to take to not have Flamingo Room and Avli and the licensed restaurants on the delivery apps. Those won't be on there. Right now, we're just delivering Flamingo Room and Avli on our own and with the one clicks of the world. But I would like to be able to offer the touchless product. And as Tom says, it's just an additional turnover. But if the commissions do not get dropped, then of course I won't do it. And I'm hoping that moving to an app like Chat Food, then when we're doing our own deliveries and all of the other options that Tom said, self-delivery or whatever it is, and exploring those other avenues, that then it will become viable. And this is not about making huge profits on it, but at least making a decent margin for the effort you put in. But certainly not with the apps as they are now. No, I'm only doing, as Tom says, to try and get in some money to help the staff. But as it currently stands, the only reason why we're making a small margin is because we are not paying rent. So that's a big thing. And we've had to cut our staff salaries because we have no cash reserves. Take those two things out of it. The big commissions make absolutely no sense, and they are 100% loss making, no matter what your model is. Unless you're in a space that you maybe operating out of a ghost kitchen and your rentals are really low and you've got a small team making a very small focused menu. But for a restaurant, once we go back to paying rent and staff salaries go back to what they should be, it's loss making. So we won't be continuing, certainly not now.
One of the only defences we've heard of the delivery aggregators has been from your neighbour, average neighbour, LPM, who said they were quite happy with it. Obviously, their average check must be 500 plus, 600, 700. Are they then, or would you as well with Avli and as the LPM, are you not in a good position to then negotiate that commission right down? I mean, are LPM paying 35% on every delivery at 700 dirhams a delivery? A check? It doesn't seem likely, does it? Is that not why they're benefiting?
I think that mine's more of an emotional thing. I don't really want to put, I'm only offering 2 meals from our Vliet and Flamingo Room with set menus. I don't really want to put those 2 restaurants onto a full delivery unless I really have to and I'm forced to, because I think there's a lot to be said for the entire experience in those more fine dining restaurants. And I think I'm holding on to the hope that we'll be able to go back to that, and I don't have to put that particular product in a takeaway box, no matter how beautiful. So, you know, I don't really want to put those brands on there. I may be forced to.
Simon,
I might be forced to.
Simon, to your point, I think there is another very important point to have in mind on that model is that set aside the commission parts. You also want to be in contact and to know who are your customers. And something that's very difficult on these apps as well is that you basically just know the type of food that you need to prepare, but you don't know who are the people ordering from you. And especially for the small restaurants, and it's very important to have this connection with their customers and to learn from that and be able to improve their product. So I think there is these 2 aspects that are, to Tom's points, why you also need to look at other avenues to build your delivery business. Is you also want to know who are the people who order from you and what did they think about your food and so on. So even Natasha, for you, I'm sure it's very important later on, even if they drop the commissions, to have some insights about who are your customers.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah, and at the moment, obviously, we don't have that. Besides, you know, the reviews. But you don't have any direct access to your customers now.
I've helped to moderate about 4 of these panels now, and I can tell you that this delivery discussion has been one of the most vibrant in the chat. There's been a lot going on, a lot of questions, a lot of which we haven't got through. So we'll try and get to them after the panel if we can. But we'd also like to today discuss the reopening as it is another one of the big issues. So again, if you do have any other questions regarding delivery, if you still put them in, we'll try and let the panelists, if they're willing to answer them after, or if there's anything else they can do for us. But at the moment, we'll try and move on to the reopening stage, because obviously that's made a huge impact on the industry and made a huge impact on delivery as well. So yeah, guys, basically, could you let everyone watching know, how was the delivery process for you? Have you opened yet? Are you still in the process of doing it? What's the impact been like, Natasha?
Okay, so we are not going to open with the 30% restrictions. Again, as Tom says, everyone's business model is different. So we're not going to open for sit down, because we are not a takeaway business. So we're not going to open for sit down with a 30% restriction coupled with Ramadan. And all we did was take a simple exercise. Ramadan's already a tough month for anyone to make money, you know, let alone break even. In some cases, you're losing money over Ramadan. So we've taken those numbers and then applied a 70% reduction in turnover, still kept our staff costs quite low, and we're still coming out at a loss. So we won't be opening Ramadan with the 30%. We're busy running the numbers to see if it's viable after Ramadan to open with 30%. So we're running our models at 30, 40, 50, 60. And as soon as we can break even, so Simon, it's not about making money. The minute we can break even and we are not incurring losses and we don't have to sustain those losses, because where are we going to get this money to sustain these losses? It's an impossibility. But the minute we can break even, and that helps our staff, of course, and make sure that we can keep our staff on board, and we are then able to give our customers our product and served in our restaurants, then of course we'll open. But it's all going to depend on where that break even is. So for now, we are not opening any of our venues with Ramadan coupled with the 30%. We will then take a look at what the numbers are with just the 30% trade, and then not having the limitation of the Ramadan. Because don't forget, most of our diners in Ramadan are coming out after 10 o'clock. So it's Ramadan plus the curfew, plus the 30%, plus the 2-meter distance. It's not viable for Tasha's and for our Vliet and Flamingo Room. So, you know, I certainly understand why it's being done. So I don't have a gripe about that. You know, we've got to try and contain the virus. It's just a matter of when does it become viable for me to open the business.
And with Tom, I understand you have opened most of your venues now?
Yeah, so we've got, most of my venues, I've got 6 venues. So 4 of them are now open. So Tom and Serge, 30%. Some of us is open at 30%, Common Grounds in Mall of the Emirates at 30%, and also Common Grounds in Almas Tower in JLT, and also all of them doing delivery, of course. It was interesting. The uptake in the first weekend was okay. People were definitely coming out of their houses for sure. It's been slow, but been surprisingly okay. We're doing all the things as per the government's regulations. And I got to say this, one of the things that I was actually really impressed with was, I think it was on Thursday evening, the night before Ramadan, the reopening of Dubai sectors guide came out from the government, and was super clear. I was impressed with the clarity, the leadership, and all that sort of stuff that actually came out from them, because I've heard some things about confusion and what you can do and what you can't do, but it is black and white in this reopening of Dubai sectors guide that I'm sure everyone who's on the webinar has it. If you haven't, you need to get a copy of it. It was sent out very late on Thursday night. I got it within a couple of minutes of it being sent out. It was shared all around WhatsApp groups and everywhere, and on emails, and it was sent out directly from DED, I think. That guy was super clear. From my perspective, we have to, I think you've got to do whatever you can at the moment. Obviously you've got to do it with, keeping people safe, keeping staff safe, is our huge priority and our major priority, to ensure that there is 0 infections within the company, anywhere. It's just one of those things. Hygiene is an absolute necessity. We've got to be super strict on it. So if you get temperature checked when you come into our restaurants, please, it's something that's happening in all the malls and everywhere. So we're doing the right thing and trying to, ensure that our staff are wearing gloves and masks and all that sort of stuff, and sanitizing every little part of the restaurants. But as I said, from my perspective, any money at the moment is good money, because it goes straight to staff. This is a global catastrophe, where so many hospitality staff around the world are just being cut, losing jobs, getting 0 support from other governments or whatever. There has not been a heap of support yet here, but what we have to do is try and give as much back as we can to our teams. And I'm all the stimulus package that the government did bring out has a trickle effect. So although it's not directly to all of us, obviously it goes to banks and big corporates up there that can then trickle the effects down, and we can delay payments and all that type of stuff, which was what we have to do at this time, is to try and defer as much stuff as we can as possible. It's defer payments, I mean. To landlords and banks and these types of things, which are being very helpful at the moment. So there are a lot of things we can do, but as I said, my priority now is to keep my options open, keep as many revenue streams as possible open, just so that we can keep our staff alive, our company alive, and then hopefully reopen. Obviously, it'll be a new normal afterwards. No one knows what it will look like. But we've got to just continue to fight and be creative with our options, I think.
And Samantha, you have your hand raised anyway, yes? Yeah, please.
I just wanted to add, from a customer perspective, I did a little poll on Friday, just asking the question, would you choose to dine out when restaurants reopen with restrictions? So this was Instagram and Twitter. About 1,500 respondents, only 60% actually said they would comfortably dine out. I expected it to be a little bit higher. And okay, that was the first day of Ramadan, so perhaps if you did it now, it might be a little bit, or maybe not. But I'm getting so many questions about the masks, and that is the issue for people. How are they expected to eat out in a restaurant wearing a mask? So I think it's not so much the spacing and the 30% of whatever it is capacity. I think once that the whole mask situation perhaps changes, then there might be some more positivity and some more encouragement for consumers to go out and eat. And also the licensing aspect. When you can get Avli's food delivered to your home, Flamingo's food delivered, any of the licensed LPM's food delivered to your home, and you can eat it in the comfort of your own home without a mask, why should you go out and eat when you don't have the beverage option?
Yeah, good point.
Tom, I wonder, as you said you had a good uptake of customers out the first weekend, but to Samantha's point, in terms of, she said only maybe 60% of her respondents were willing to go out at this time to eat. In terms of percentage-wise, considering it was the first weekend of Ramadan, what kind of, and plus with the social distancing, how good would that weekend have been on average for you?
Oh, on average, it would have been terrible in normal situations. But as I said, with the 30% rule, what do you say? We had a good breakfast and we had a good lunch rush. Like that was, as I said, my business model is all about people's daily routine, being affordable, and having good healthy meals for every day. So we knew that there would be a good uptake as soon as we were allowed to be back open. We've got a lot of amazing loyal customers that come to our venues, a couple of times a week. So yeah, it was okay. It was definitely people between a certain age bracket. There were no kids because you're not allowed to have kids below the age of 12, from what I understand. It was mostly younger types of people who would normally have come out. So everyone was wearing masks. Everyone was just lifting the masks up over their head while they eat, and then they put it back down as they leave. But everyone's got to have it on. I think they were just as they take a sip, you put it up and you leave it on your head. So it's, as I said, it was okay considering the massive amount of stress that we all have going on out there. And as I said, it's about just bringing in anything that we can at the moment.
I understand at the moment you have Brunswick closed, obviously because there's no licensing at the moment.
Yeah, well, the hotel was actually closed. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And when one of the comments, Florencia said that there was a lack of clarity on the licensing situation. Have you heard anything more about that? Do you have any expectations on when that may change?
Yeah, well, from my perspective, from the reopening of Dubai sectors guide, there was nothing about licensing specifically for reopening for COVID. It's not about licensing. You already have a trade license. That's it. You're good to go. You just need to follow, from what I understand, these guidelines within the reopening of Dubai sectors guide. Once you have that, you're good. And once you're following everything, you're good. The only thing that you do need to apply for with DED is a license to operate within Ramadan. So that's what we've had to do, and we have applied for that. I think I would double check if anyone wants to know later about the exact price. One of my team members actually got that done the morning after. I think it was on the Saturday when the offices were open. I think actually no, from what I understand, you can do it online as well. So I can get the details out to everyone after that. But we've done that and registered to operate during Ramadan.
Yeah, okay.
We have one of the questions, just if anyone can shed any light, from a Duncan Muir who asked, what is everyone's interpretations regarding terraces? Anyone have shed any light on that?
I didn't hear that, Simon. Say that again.
Asking about what is everyone's interpretations regarding terraces in terms of them being open? Is that something?
I don't think we're gonna. Well, now I mean, sort of that's not really relevant for us now because we're going into the summer months, and if they let us open in let's say June, hopefully, with a bigger capacity, and we decide to open, and some of the guys who are trading at 30 like Tom, we're not going to be using those terraces for a while. So I don't know what the legislation is going to look like in September, October when we can open the terraces. I haven't heard anything about terraces.
Yeah, I think usually there is some sort of circular around the Ramadan guidelines. So I think maybe terraces this time of year is not a great idea because of Ramadan, unless they're fully covered. I would suggest. So yeah, that's what I would be doing is it's just playing it safe with the fact that it is Ramadan and being very respectful.
We just had a question in for Tom. I guess it's regarding kind of hygiene at this moment. Are you using any tech to enable people to access the menu on their phone while at the outlet?
Yeah, so we've also got QR codes. So basically, all of our menus are on QR codes. So you can go into one of my restaurants and you can get your phone, open up your camera, stick it over the QR code, and the menu will come up on our website. So you don't have to touch anything. You just need to use your phone, and we operate like that. And of course, with disposable cutlery and disposable crockery.
Are you doing the disposable menus as well for people who do still want to hold a menu?
Yeah. So there are two options. There are either the QR code on your phone, or there is an A4 piece of paper that has the menu on it that is single use.
Yeah.
So everyone, we're just about out of time now. That's obviously a very lively discussion we've had. We haven't even managed to kind of scratch the surface at a lot of the questions. I apologise for that. There's just simply so much to cover at the moment. But we will try and personally get back to you on some of the questions. But just to end, I'll maybe go around everyone and just ask again. In terms of opening up fully, what kind of expectation do we have on that? Samantha, when do you think we'll be back to normal in restaurants?
No pressure.
Connection's breaking up slightly, so I hope you can hear me. I think we all agree that Thursday evening's announcement caught us all by surprise. No one was expecting us to start reopening before the end of Ramadan. I would like to think that given they have, unless we end up going into complete lockdown because the cases are going to increase, which is likely, then I expect we might be able to start by sort of beginning of June, middle of June, moving into reopening properly, i.e. without masks.
And without restrictions, or still with the distancing?
No, I think we're still going to see distancing, maybe 40–50% come June, and I think masks will be a requirement for staff. But if they really want to encourage consumer confidence back into the market, they have to remove masks from the consumer. Perhaps you wear it on the way to the restaurant, but once you're in there, you can remove it.
I think, Samantha, just one thing that's really important to note, and it will probably stir up a whole lot of other questions, but it's one thing to be saying we're going to reopen at either 30, 40, 50%, but then we're really going to have to look at the other costs in the business, and one of those big ones is landlords sort of helping us through this time, not deferring rentals, waiving them completely for while we're closed, and really capping our turnover clauses at 6% with sort of no base rental is what we really going to be asking for, at least for a period of time until we're back on our feet, because I don't think it's going to help at trading at 50% and then going back to your old operating expenses, because then you'll really be dead in the water. So we're going to need some more help.
Yeah,
I agree. I think.
Go, Sam.
No, I think the second discussion is landlords and rents, but that's for another time.
That's a whole different webinar.
Yeah, it is a whole different webinar.
My perspective is that I think that businesses have to do whatever they can to prepare for this to be longer than August, September. Just to be on the safe side. You have to expect that this is going to be, at least till that time, at least so that you are prepared for the worst case scenario. If it does happen earlier, then great, but you've got to be prepared for it to happen, or for the restrictions to apply way into sort of almost Q4.
Yeah, and I think for us to go to back to any kind of like normal in inverted commas, because I think that's going to take a while. I personally think 18 months before we can see any type of normalization. So we're going to need assistance for a while from wherever we can get it, whether that's the comms getting dropped, or all these new options for deliveries, landlord assistance, governmental assistance. And I'm also talking in terms of my the other place where I trade in South Africa. We need to be pushing for as much change as we can so we can survive.
Benjamin, last word there. What's your expectations?
Well, I share what has been shared here. It's it's hard to have a clear idea. So on the delivery side, I don't know exactly. Definitely on the dining side, I heard a lot of feedback from restaurants, saying that maybe like during the summer or at September when back to school.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. And again, thank you to all the panelists and everyone for joining us for what was a fantastic discussion. Very lively. I hope that helped and give some clarity to some of the situations and can help people as they try to move forward from this. So again, thank you so much for joining us. I will hand this back over to Jennifer to finish up.
Well, thank you so much to Samantha, Tom, Benjamin, Natasha, and to Simon. This is definitely not the last one of these we'll be doing on the aggregators, I imagine. It is a really hot topic, and I know a lot of people were disappointed we didn't have one of the big guys on board for this session, and we are talking to them at the moment, and hopefully in the near future we'll be able to get them onto a session to put forward their perspective as well, because I think it is very important that it's a balanced viewpoint, and I think we had a nice balanced viewpoint today as well. Now moving on to I wanted to bring up one point. There's been a lot on the chat regarding collective action and supporting the smaller guys and putting the industry view forward. This is very much what we want to do as Mira, and we have actually sent a letter through to the Executive Council raising some of the points that people have been mentioning to put forward the perspective of the industry. We'll keep you guys informed of how that goes. But just to let you know that we very much want to be a voice for operators of all sizes and also for all aspects of the industry. So thank you to everybody who did sign that letter. We appreciate it. And next week, we'll actually be looking at the results of the JLL survey, which we have done in conjunction with them to find out kind of the true extent of the impact on the industry of COVID. And also to look at JLL's research, what they have been doing pre-COVID to kind of map out Dubai's restaurant landscape. We'll also be bringing into the conversation let me just look at the job title, basically someone from the UK office to talk a little bit about what's happening in Europe and the UK as well, to get a sense of the global scene. So thank you so much to everybody, really appreciate it. Please feel free to email me at jennifer@themira.org with any questions. I see here that there's a WhatsApp group that's being formed, which is great to keep everybody connected, and we'll be liaising with the organizers of that so we can send through any information or any insights that we get to distribute to everybody. But we will be in touch with the recording of this webinar as well as information for signing up for next week's. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Stay safe.